Yo, what is up? It's your boy back at it again. And today we got some breaking news that is about to shake the entire Chicago rap scene to its absolute core. And when I say core, I mean the kind of shake that rattles bones, wakes up the dead, and has every single person from O Block to the suburbs of Illinois clutching their chest like they just got hit with the most unexpected gut punch of 2024. Now listen, I need y'all to stop whatever you are doing right now. Pause the video you are watching, put down the phone call, tell your mama to hold on, because what I'm about to drop on this channel today is something that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. We talked about unreleased King Von tracks. We talked about his MOM going on record. We talked secrets buried so deep in O Block that people swore they'd never see the light of day. But guess what? The light is on, baby. Sources close to the family, people who have been in those studios, people who know what went down are talking. And Chicago? Chicago is absolutely losing its mind right now. The streets are buzzing. The fans are shook. And the drama? Alright, so let's get into it. And I mean really get into it, because this story has so many layers, so many moving pieces, that if you blink you are going to miss something critical. So we're gonna start from the very beginning, from the moment this whole thing first started bubbling up on the internet, and then we're gonna take you all the way through every single twist, every single revelation, every single jaw-dropping moment that has the entire hip-hop community and specifically the city of Chicago absolutely standing at attention right now. It started about 3 weeks ago. Real quiet at first. You know how it is. Something drops in the underground, whispers start circulating on Twitter, somebody posts something cryptic on Instagram, and then before you know it the whole thing explodes into a full-blown firestorm. That is exactly what happened here. A close family associate, somebody who has been around the Vaughn household for years, somebody who has broken bread with his family, been to the cookouts, been in the conversations. This person posted a story on Instagram that lasted exactly 11 seconds before it got deleted. 11 seconds. But the internet? The internet never sleeps, and somebody screenshot that thing before it vanishes. And what did it say? It said, quote, "She is about to let the world hear what they tried to bury. God don't sleep. Vaughn's truth coming." And that was it. That was all it took for the entire hip-hop world to go absolutely nuclear. Now within hours, we talking maybe 4-5 hours max, that screenshot had been reposted over 50,000 times. The comment sections on every major rap page were flooded. King Von fans, and listen, King Von fans are some of the most loyal, most passionate, most emotionally connected fan bases in the entire rap game. These people were going crazy. They were tagging Davon's mom, Taesha Bennett, directly. They were tagging his sister Kayla. They were tagging every O Block affiliated account they could find. The demand for answers was immediate, and it was intense, and it was not going away. But here is where the story takes its first major turn, and this is the part that had people genuinely divided. Because see, not everybody in the Chicago community was excited about this news. Not everybody was clapping and celebrating. There was a very real, very serious faction of people. People who are plugged into the streets. People who understand what kind of information King Von was carrying in his music, in his memories, in his lived experience. And these people were not happy about the idea of unreleased material coming to the surface. And why? Because King Von was not just a rapper. King Von was a narrator. He was a documentarian of his own life, and the lives of the people around him. His music was not fiction. His music was a first-person account of real situations, real conflicts, real people, real events. And when you start talking about unreleased tracks, tracks that never went through a label, never went through legal clearance, never got reviewed and approved, you are potentially talking about music that names names, that describes scenarios, that points fingers at individuals who are still very much alive and very much active in those same streets. So the tension was real from the jump. On one side you had the fans screaming for the music, saying Vaughn's legacy deserved to be heard in full, saying his mother had every right to share her son's art with the world, saying that hiding the music was the same as erasing his memory. And on the other side you had people, some of them speaking very carefully, some of them not speaking carefully at all, saying that dropping this music could open up wounds, could reignite conflicts, could put real people in real danger. And caught in the middle of all of this? Taesha Bennett, a mother. A grieving mother who lost her son at 26 years old to gun violence, who has been carrying the weight of that loss every single day, and who apparently has been sitting on a collection of recordings that she believes the world needs to hear. Now let's talk about what we actually know about this alleged unreleased album, because the details that have been coming out, from multiple sources, from people who claim to have been in those studio sessions, from engineers who worked with Vaughn in the final months of his life, these details are wild. According to a source who reached out directly to this channel, and whose identity we are protecting for obvious reasons, Vaughn had been working on what he considered his most personal project ever. Not just personal in the emotional sense, but personal in the confessional sense. This source says that Vaughn, in those late-night sessions, was recording music that he specifically said was not for the label. It was not for radio. It was not for streaming. He called it, and I'm quoting here directly from what our source told us, the real one. He said, "I got the one for the streets and I got the real one, and the real one doesn't drop till I say so." Now what does that mean? What is the real one? According to our source, Vaughn was documenting specific events, specific people, specific situations from his time in O Block and beyond that he had never put on record before. Things that his closest people knew about. Things that insiders in Chicago already understood the context of. But things that had never been spoken on wax, never been put into a format that the general public could access and decode. And apparently, across a series of sessions in late 2020, just weeks before his death in November of that year, Vaughn recorded somewhere between 8 and 12 tracks that went directly to a hard drive that he personally kept. Not to the label servers. Not to the engineer's cloud backup. To a physical hard drive that he handled himself. And according to multiple people who have now come forward in the wake of that deleted Instagram story, that hard drive ended up in the possession of his mother. How it got there, why it got there, whether Vaughn intended for her to have it or whether it ended up with her as part of the estate, that part is still murky and that part is genuinely disputed. But what is not disputed, what multiple people are now confirming independently of each other, is that Taesha Bennett has that hard drive. She has those recordings. And based on that 11-second Instagram story that kicked all of this off, she is preparing to do something with them. And that is where things get really, really complicated. Because see, it is not just a music release at this point. It is not just an album drop. What Taesha is allegedly sitting on, according to the people who have heard snippets, according to the people who have been in her circle and been part of these conversations, what she is sitting on is essentially Vaughn's own testimony. His own words about his own life. And in the context of O Block, in the context of Chicago street politics, in the context of ongoing investigations, ongoing conflicts, ongoing everything, that testimony has the potential to be absolutely earth-shattering. Which is exactly why, as we are about to get into right now, not everyone wants it to come out. Now here is where the drama shifts from the internet into real life. And I need y'all to understand that what I'm about to tell you is based on accounts from people who were present, people who are connected, and people who've been watching this situation unfold from the inside. Because apparently, the response to that deleted Instagram story was not just happening online. It was happening offline too. In phone calls. In meetings. In conversations that were happening at a level that goes way beyond fan speculation and Twitter arguments. Word started getting around. And again, Chicago is a city, but O Block is a community. It is a tight-knit world where information travels at a speed that would make your head spin. Word started getting around that certain individuals were not comfortable with the idea of Taesha releasing this music. And these were not random people. These were not outsiders looking in. These were people with direct ties to the situations Vaughn was allegedly documenting on those recordings. People who had their own reasons for wanting certain stories to stay exactly where they had always been, buried, unspoken, handled the Chicago way. Now I want to be very clear here. I am not saying anybody threatened this woman. I am not putting that on record. What I am saying is that the pressure, the social pressure, the community pressure, the unspoken pressure that anybody familiar with that environment would immediately understand, that pressure became very real, very fast. And Taesha felt it. People who have spoken to her in recent weeks say she is not scared. They are emphatic about that. They want that understood. This is a woman who buried her son, who has faced the absolute worst thing a parent can face, and fear is not the operating emotion here. But she is aware. She is fully aware of the weight of what she is holding and the implications of what releasing it could mean. And that awareness has caused a split. A genuine, painful, family-level split. Because not everyone around Taesha is on the same page about what should happen with these recordings. Sources close to the family say that Vaughn's sister Kayla, who has been one of the most visible people keeping Vaughn's memory alive, has been having serious conversations with her mother about the timing and the approach of any release. Now let's be clear, nobody in that family is saying the music should be destroyed. Nobody is saying Vaughn's legacy should be buried. But there is reportedly a real disagreement about how this happens, who controls it, and what the music actually contains that the general public does not yet know about. See, here's the thing about unreleased music from an artist who lived the life Vaughn lived. The liability is not just emotional. It is potentially legal. Think about what Vaughn rapped about. Think about the specificity of his storytelling. The man rapped about real crimes, real confrontations, real people by name or by description clear enough that anyone who knew the situation would know exactly who and what he was talking about. Now imagine that level of specificity applied to events that were never publicly documented, never part of the official record, never tested in any courtroom or addressed in any public forum. You release something like that, and you are not just dropping an album. You are potentially dropping evidence. You are potentially implicating people. You are potentially creating a situation where federal investigators, local police, civil attorneys, and enemies on the street all have new information to work with simultaneously. This is the conversation that is reportedly happening within that inner circle. And according to our sources, it is getting heated. There are people around Taesha who are saying release everything, let the world hear Vaughn in his full truth, do not let the label or the streets or anybody else sanitize his legacy. And there are people saying slow down, think about this, think about who this could affect, think about the consequences. Taesha herself is described as someone who is listening to all of it, processing all of it, but who ultimately believes that her son's truth belongs to the world. Now let's talk about what people who have allegedly heard snippets of this material are saying, because this is where it gets absolutely insane. Over the past 2 weeks, at least 3 separate individuals, none of whom know each other, none of whom are connected through the same networks, have independently described what they claim to have heard from these recordings. And the consistency of their descriptions is what has this situation feeling so real and so serious to everyone paying attention. All 3 of these individuals describe a track. They each call it something slightly different. One calls it a confessional, one calls it a testimony record, one just says it is the most honest thing Vaughn ever put on tape, and all 3 of them say that on this track, Vaughn explicitly addresses the events surrounding a specific conflict that went down in O-Block years before his death. A conflict that insiders have always known about, but that was never publicly detailed. A conflict that allegedly involved a betrayal within the circle, a situation where someone Vaughn trusted deeply was playing both sides, feeding information, creating circumstances that led directly to violence and death. Now I am not going to name names here. I am going to be responsible with this information because we are talking about real people and real situations with real consequences. But what I will tell you is that the descriptions these 3 independent sources gave were specific enough, consistent enough, and detailed enough that multiple Chicago street commentators who were shown the descriptions, without being told the source, immediately recognized what situation was being referenced. And one of them, somebody with deep roots in that community, said in background, if Vaughn really got that on record, that changes everything. That changes the whole narrative of what happened and who was responsible for what. And that statement right there, that changes everything, is what has Chicago exploding right now. Because we are not just talking about music. We are not just talking about posthumous album drama. We are potentially talking about Vaughn, from beyond the grave, through the vehicle of his own art, dropping information that rewrites the story of some of the most significant events in Chicago street history over the past decade. And his mother is sitting on it. And she is making a decision. And the entire city is holding its breath. But here is the twist that nobody was expecting. Here is the development that dropped just days ago and sent the whole situation into a completely new dimension. Because right when everyone was focused on Taesha, focused on the family drama, focused on the street pressure and the legal concerns and the fan demands, somebody leaked. Not the music. Not the full project. But a clip. A 7-second audio clip that started circulating on private group chats in Chicago, before making its way onto Twitter and then Instagram within hours. 7 seconds of what multiple audio analysts and people who worked with Vaughn have confirmed sounds consistent with his voice, his cadence, his recording style. 7 seconds in which you can hear Vaughn say with absolute clarity, words that I cannot fully repeat on this platform but which essentially translates to this. Somebody in his circle lied, and he knew it, and he was not going to leave the earth without saying so. 7 seconds. And Chicago has not been the same since. So now we are in the aftermath of that 7-second clip, and the aftermath is everything you would expect it to be, and then some. Because once that audio started circulating, once people started listening, once the verification started happening, and it became increasingly clear that this was not fabricated, not AI generated, not some manipulation designed to generate attention, the reaction went from excited to serious in a matter of hours. This was no longer just a fan conversation. This was no longer just social media speculation. This had become something with real stakes, real implications, and real people feeling real pressure in real time. Let's start with the fan reaction, because the fans are a massive part of this story and their response has been incredible to watch. King Von's fan base mobilized like an army the moment that clip dropped. Within 12 hours there were dedicated threads on Reddit, detailed audio analyses on YouTube, comparison videos breaking down the cadence and vocal patterns, people pulling up old interviews and freestyles to cross-reference the voice. The consensus among people who did this kind of deep listening work was overwhelming. This was Vaughn. This was real. And the implications of that reality set in fast. Fan pages that normally post throwback photos and stream count updates were suddenly becoming news hubs. The comments sections were electric. You had people crying. You had people posting fire emojis. You had people writing paragraphs about what Vaughn meant to them, about how they always believed he knew more than he ever said publicly, about how this felt like a message reaching through time. Emotions were running absolutely sky-high across every platform, and the energy showed no signs of slowing down. But then you had the other side. The side that was not celebrating. And this side was loud too, louder than you might expect, and in some ways more organized than the fan celebration. Because there were accounts, some of them anonymous, some of them clearly associated with specific communities and neighborhoods, that started pushing back hard the moment the clip went viral, calling it fake, calling it disrespectful to Vaughn's memory, calling it a money grab, calling it dangerous. And the intensity of that pushback, the speed of it, the coordination of it, told a lot of people who were watching closely that the concern was not really about authenticity. The concern was about what comes next if the authenticity gets confirmed. One Chicago commentator with a significant following posted a video that got hundreds of thousands of views in which he essentially pleaded with Taesha not to release the full project. He was not aggressive about it. He was not threatening about it. He was emotional about it. He talked about the city, about the streets, about how certain information has consequences that ripple outward and affect people who were not even directly involved in the original situations. He talked about Vaughn with genuine love and genuine grief. And then he said, some things are meant to stay between the people who lived them. And that video, that one video, cracked the internet because it felt authentic. It felt like a real person saying a real thing for real reasons. And it made people ask, what exactly is on those recordings that would make someone make a video like that? Now here is where Taesha herself enters the picture in a direct and undeniable way. Because following the circulation of that 7-second clip, following the explosion of reactions on both sides, following what our sources describe as an extremely intense 48 hours of phone calls and conversations and pressure coming from multiple directions, Taesha Bennett posted on her own Instagram. A full post. Not a story. Not something that disappears after 24 hours. A permanent post with a photo of Vaughn in the studio, young and focused, headphones on, pen in hand. And the caption? The caption said this, and I want to read it to you carefully because every word matters. She wrote, "My son gave everything to his art. Everything. He didn't hold back for the label. He didn't hold back in the streets. He didn't hold back for anybody. He recorded what he lived, and he lived what he recorded. People keep asking me what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what any mother who loves her child would do. I'm going to make sure the world knows who he really was. Not the version they approved. The real one. On his time. Which is now our time. Get ready. Get ready." 2 words. And the internet detonated. Within 30 minutes that post had 500,000 likes. The comment section was so flooded that Instagram's own system was struggling to load it. Every major rap news outlet was screenshotting and reposting. The Shade Room had it up immediately. The Academics page was going crazy. The Breakfast Club was talking about it by the next morning. This had crossed out of the underground rap news space and into mainstream entertainment conversation, and that transition happened overnight. But even as the celebration was happening, even as fans were screaming and sharing and expressing their excitement, the situation on the ground in Chicago was described by people close to it as tense. Not violent. Not at a breaking point. But tense in that specific way that anyone familiar with that environment understands. The kind of tension where everybody is watching everybody, where conversations happen in careful language, where the next move matters enormously and everyone knows it. Sources say that in the days following Taesha's post, there were attempts by intermediaries, people who exist in that space between the music industry and the street world, people who speak both languages fluently, to broker some kind of agreement about how and what gets released. The idea being floated, according to one source, was that the project could still come out but that certain tracks, specifically the most detailed and most incriminating ones, would be held back or modified. That a version of the album could be released that honored Vaughn's artistry without potentially triggering real-world consequences that nobody could fully predict or control. Taesha's response to these conversations, according to people who were present for some of them, was consistent and unwavering. She was respectful. She heard people out. She did not dismiss the concerns. But she kept coming back to the same position, that Vaughn knew what he was recording. Vaughn made deliberate choices about what he put on tape, and interfering with those choices was not something she was willing to do. She reportedly said in one of these conversations, and our source is paraphrasing here, "He trusted me with this for a reason. He didn't trust the label with it. He didn't trust the streets with it. He trusted me. And I'm not going to betray that trust by cutting pieces out because other people are uncomfortable." And that right there is the crux of everything. That is the center of the storm. A mother's love and a mother's conviction, standing against an enormous amount of pressure from an enormous number of directions, holding onto her son's final and most honest work, preparing to release it to a world that is absolutely unprepared for what it contains. The label situation is reportedly unresolved. There are legal questions about rights and ownership that have not been fully worked out, which adds another layer of complexity to the timeline. But people close to Taesha say she is not waiting forever. She is moving. The process is happening. And the question is not if anymore. The question is when. Now there are still pieces of this story that we do not have. There are still gaps. We do not know the exact track listing. We do not know the precise nature of every revelation in every song. We do not know exactly when this is dropping or through what channel or with what kind of rollout. What we know is what we have told you. The hard drive exists, the music exists, the family is prepared to release it, and the city of Chicago is bracing for whatever comes next. Because here is the thing about King Von that people always understood even when they could not fully articulate it. He was not performing. He was reporting. And when a reporter leaves behind unpublished reports, and those reports finally find their way to publication, history changes. Narratives shift. Truth surfaces. And for everyone involved in the situations Vaughn was documenting in those final sessions, in that final honest, unflinching body of work that he called the real one, the clock is now ticking. Taesha made that clear. Vaughn's voice made that clear. 7 seconds was enough to shake Chicago to its foundation. Imagine what a full album does.